How's it going, guys? It's Turin here, and today, guys, I'm here with another Total War Warhammer online commentary. In this battle, I'm going to be playing the Warriors of Chaos, led by the mighty Warp Chicken himself, Sartorial the Ever Watcher. So, guys, this is indeed a 3v3 game, so I'm going to be joined by Prince Sigvald and his host over here on the western flank. And then we also do have a Chaos Sorcerer Lord with the Lore of Metal. So, this was by far the most Lore of Metal I've seen in quite a long time. I do have the Warp Chicken, like I mentioned before, with Searing Doom and Plague of Rust. My ally over here does have the Golden Hounds of Gehenna as well as Plague of Rust, and over here, Prince Sigvald, I think, has Lore of Death. Typically, guys, from my experience, when I brought the Chaos Chicken, I really like to actually bring a Chaos Sorcerer with the Lore of Death. Simply because, number one, let's go ahead and pause here so I can show you guys. So he actually provides you with life leeching, which essentially greatly improves your Winds of Magic kind of resources. And on top of that, he does bring an Arcane Conduit to the table, because the Chaos Chicken, he doesn't actually have an Arcane Conduit. So having the ability to regenerate your Winds of Magic with that is pretty valuable in my opinion. So we're going to be facing off against the Empire as well as Bretonnia. So the old world has united against us. And guys, we do indeed have the mighty Balthazar Gelt. We have Boris Todbringer as well as King Lewin over here. So guys, it's going to be a good one. And anytime that you see the Sunmaker and all that kind of funny business going on, you know it's going to be a pretty entertaining replay. So without further ado, guys, let's get things rolling. And you can see that the Warriors of Chaos over here are already taking some pretty heavy fire. They got their shields up. Thankfully, these things don't have like the most heavy armor-piercing damage, the Sunmaker and those type of units, but still, it still does a bit of damage against these kind of relatively clumped-up Chaos Warriors. Although this is a bit of a spaghetti line, which is good against this. This is exactly what you want to do. You don't want to be like marching in a tight formation, because then you will really get punished. So over here, the Sunmaker is shooting, but it will run out of ammunition pretty quick. You can see it's already down to about 80% of its ammunition, and for that thing, it costs, I think, close to like 2,000 resources. So it really has to do some serious damage to pay for itself. Over here, you can see my forces got a little bit ahead of my allies, which was kind of problematic because I'm going to start taking a ton of gunfire. And I got a little bit brazen with the Warp Chicken because I had just been playing a lot of 1v1 games with him, and I was like kind of comfortable with him in that respect. But guys, in multiplayer, you really have to watch out. He is pretty much impervious to missile fire, but against the Bretonnian Flying Goon Squad, which I was not paying attention to, it was definitely going to be a bad day. So you can see my forces are kind of staggering in here, and I did send my cav over on the far side. So over here, you can see that these are actually my Chaos Knights taking all this handgunner fire from the Silver Bullets and some of these other hidden guys that popped out. But my Hounds were able to capture some of those Outriders over there, and my Chaos Knights should be able to do the same. So you can see in the middle, the mighty Space Chicken is going to jump in here, and I just got a little bit overexcited, but he does get a very good kind of dubstep smash here. So like one of you guys made that comment, it was pretty good. But the Bretonnian player is definitely not going to have any of my shit today, so he comes in here and just absolutely puts the Chaos Chicken in a trash can. So you can see I immediately take like a good 40% of my HP and damage. I do use a standard die, and I also pull in some of my Aspiring Champions and other troops in support, and this is the time I was like, man, I wish I had kept my Chaos Knights here for support, but he was able to just chase me down. You can see King Lewin and these Bretonnian troops are just pushing through, and the Chaos Chicken is going to get chased off pretty darn hard. Thankfully, he does have about, well, right now he's only at 46 move speed, but he is very quick. Over here, you can see that Sigvald's troops have kind of engaged against some of these spears. And Marauders are actually a pretty good pick against Empire, in my opinion. I don't know if I would call it like the most competitive pick, because I think Forsaken are a little bit better, but Marauders can fare well against like the low tier front line. So you can see the Forsaken have also engaged here. It's going to be a good situation. You can see the Hellstorm rocket batteries are also shooting at the Chaos forces that are advancing over here. But on the backside, we were able to actually deal with those Outriders. You can see the Chaos Hounds have eaten those guys on the far side, and the Chaos Knights, my Chaos Knights, as well as my allies' Chaos Knights, were able to chase down those Outriders. So this is a really exposed flank, and he really only has one group of Halberdiers and the mighty Balthazar Gelt himself to defend it. So over here, you can see that these Halberds, or excuse me, these Great Weapons have engaged with the Greatsword, so it's a relatively even trade. You see Greatswords actually have lower melee attack and lower melee defense than the Chaos Warriors, but they do have a little bit higher weapon strength, and then on top, well, I guess it's with the bonus included, it is higher, because they do have a bonus for his infantry. So over here, it's a pretty wild fight for the most part, and you can see some of my guys do push through against some of these Halberdiers, but King Lewin and the boys are just in hot pursuit. And you can see the Chaos Chicken is just running with all of his might, just using his track star wheels, but he is getting chased so incredibly hard, and all of that missile fire is focusing him, and granted, it is being mitigated by 25%, it's still going to add up, because he is so low. So King Lewin does use the Sword of Corone, and it looks like he does get caught up on some of these Chaos Warriors here, so the Chaos Chicken is able to get away, which is excellent. Over here on the far side, you can see the Chaos Sorcerer Lord with the Lore of Metal is in here fighting the good fight, and he's also joined by some Marauders, and also a big Dragon Ogre Shag that's just wreaking havoc in here. You can see blood and gore of these Foot Squires, and this is definitely a hard counter. Foot Squires are pretty terrible against large units for the most part, and this Dragon Ogre Shag is just in his element, just going to beat down this flank. So for the most part, the Chaos Warriors have kind of enveloped this flank, and you can see the Forsaken and some of these Great Weapons are able to get through and do pretty good in this matchup. He does get some Chaos Knights around the back, and it's kind of been a recurring theme in this matchup is that we were able to get around the flank very well. Thankfully, Lewin did pull back. He is getting Spirit Leech and some other abilities I believe were targeting him, but the Chaos Chicken is in full retreat if I'm not mistaken. Let's go ahead and find him. So yeah, you can see him right here. He actually has about 500 HP, and he was fighting the mighty Balthazar Gelt, but he definitely doesn't want any of that Gelt action. He's going to have to tuck tail and run. So right now, he's just track starring it, and thankfully he's very good at running through the the ranks, but Balthazar Gelt has him in his sights, and you can see Gelt immediately turns in the sky and is going to be coming after him pretty shortly here. So some of these Chaos Warriors with halberds are coming to protect the Warp Chicken, but you know, it's looking pretty dicey here. You can see that those Hellstorm rocket batteries for the most part have been compromised. In the back line, the Warriors of Chaos were able to ride through and just get directly onto the handgunner. So you can see these Chaos Knights are just going to absolutely annihilate this entire Empire back line. So this is a ton of resources down the drain. You can see there's these guns, there's these Sunmakers, and this is like literally so much money. And you know, in investing in all of these things, your front line is going to be really, really weak. So you can see the Forsaken pushing in. They're just going to tear these guys to shreds. So Prince Sigvald's Legion over here is doing very, very good job. Definitely compensating for my, you know, really poor play with Big Bird. But Balthazar Gelt is actually chasing after him, and he actually has 29 HP. You can see the Gelt, I did Spirit Leech him, or I think that was either myself or my ally were Spirit Leeching him, hoping that we could, you know, somewhat, you know, divert him from going after the bird. But unfortunately, the mighty Big Bird is going to be roasted here, put on a spit, and served at KFC. So definitely not a good time for him, guys. He's got 29 HP. And even though Gelt has pretty poor combat stats, you can see those Hellstorm rocket batteries coming in pretty hot. And it looks like he is casting the Searing Doom, trying to pop him right here, which is just hilarious. So Gelt's coming in pretty hot. He's going to be able to get a dive bombing, and the Chaos Chicken right now is just like, all right, I might as well turn and fight. But you can see him just all glorious with his golden armor, and he does put down the Warp Chicken. Very, very well played by the mighty Balthazar Gelt. But other than that, the balance of power is very heavily in our Chaos faction's favor. You can see this Empire player here just got absolutely overrun because I did send my Chaos Knights as well as Hounds, so we kind of overwhelmed him. He didn't have enough resources to deal with all of our mobile units, and you can see this massive tide of Chaos just pushing towards our enemies, and it's really, really problematic because this horde is just going to push into the missile line over here. In the middle, it was more of an even fight, I would say. A lot of my troops got pretty damaged, especially, you know, since I lost the Chaos Chicken so early. But some of my troops here are going to be joining the fight. And over here on the far side, you can see the Shaggoth and the boys were able to get through to Bretonnia, but it's just an absolutely just out of control fight. You can see the Bretonnian forces are putting up a desperate last stand. They do have their spears against this Dragon Ogre Shaggoth here. You can also see the Peasant Bowmen, despite this like really convoluted battle, are still firing this late. So a very, very good job by the Bretonnian player keeping these guys online. And you can also see that the Hammer of the Witches is in the tree, but unfortunately it does look like it's a little obstructed. So King Lewin and these Pegasus Knights are desperately trying to rally in the fourth quarter. You can also see that Boris Todbringer down here on the ground is just kind of chilling and watching his boys do their thing. But this is a big Chaos force, and you can see that the forces of the Old World, the Empire, and Bretonnia here are very, very tattered and beaten up. But King Lewin does get in there and gets a very good charge against this Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. You can see that some of this Pegasus Knights are routed off, but this Shaggoth will do a good job counter fighting him essentially. But Lewin is obviously in better shape and is a superior duelist, and he is supported by those Pegasus Knights. With the Sword of Perone, this thing is going to be very, very squishy with about 850 HP left right now. So if we take a look over here, you can see that the Chaos flank has kind of advanced and is able to push in. Some of these Chaos Knights with lances are going to get onto these handgunners, and you can also see the Golden Hounds of Gehenna getting a very good stylistic shot right here, but unfortunately it looks like it's hurting their own hounds more so than anything. But those Chaos Knights just absolutely ride through those guys. They're going to push in, and then the Forsaken are collapsing from the other side. So a very, very tough situation for these handgunners. They're most certainly not going to be able to escape from all of this mobility, and they don't really have much support. Over here you can see the last kind of bastion of the Empire forces are these Flagellants just fighting tooth and nail. Unfortunately, they're fighting against heavy armor, which is not going to be a good situation for them as they are being overrun from pretty much every angle. And you know, despite these circumstances, I'm surprised these greatswords are still fighting, but it'll be interesting after the game's over to take a look at the amount of kills that all of these troops got. So you can see Prince Sigvald over here, pretty triumphant. Him and his horses were able to win the western flank and compensate for Big Bird's failures in the middle, definitely doing his folks proud. Over here you can see that the Forsaken are chasing off the Hammer of the Witches, and a lot of the Empire forces and Bretonnian forces have kind of holed up here around the Grail Reliquary for a desperate last stand. You can see Balthazar Gelt is back, and they're actually able to take out the Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Metal and, you know, put him down pretty efficiently here. And man, this Gelt is just a hero killer today. He's just going around sniping lords like it's nobody's business. But a nice soul light coming down from our Empire player, or excuse me, from my Chaos ally, but it looks like I think it was in this radius right here. But Boris Todbringer is, you know, he's still eager. He does have some troops fighting, but for the most part, the Grail Reliquary is the, you know, piece of Scotch tape that's holding together this army, as Chaos does have a vast force. You can see there's tons of very, very healthy infantry here, but the, you know, the leadership of the Empire forces and Bretonnian forces are in very, very good shape, and they're doing a pretty good job fighting against the mighty Sigvald here. He's dueling with King Lewin. Definitely going to be a tough matchup for Sigvald. Though he does have regeneration, Lewin does have very, very heavy armor piercing, whereas Sigvald, though he is a duelist, doesn't have the same amount of armor piercing, but he actually does a pretty good job of fending off Lewin here, and he does get the support of this exalted hero here who's going to try and help him, you know, save the day. But unfortunately, they kind of are just looking around, just waiting for Lewin, but he is flying up in the sky. So you can see most of the Empire forces are routing off here. Lewin is going in for a desperate last stand, but he is coming into a bunch of halberds, which are going to be able to make pretty short work of him, especially with the support of the mighty Prince Sigvald here. So very, very well played, but unfortunately, the Old World alliance of the Empire and Bretonnia has fallen to the hordes of Chaos. The mighty Balthazar Gelt doing a very, very tactical, scenic retreat here into the sunset. So thankfully for them, they will live to fight another day. Very, very fun fight. Very awesome. Very well played to Dark Garino, my ally, as well as Chainsaw Gav, who was leading the mighty Prince Sigvald. Also very well played to the Goblin Crackhead, Bobby91, and Kronos45, who definitely was having the most fun here. He got the 2 rocket batteries and Gelt, but man, his Gelt, the 1 kill he did get was very, very valuable against the mighty Warp Chicken. And I think we should coin that term, the Warp Chicken. I like that a little bit more than Big Bird. So guys, let's make it a thing. But anyways, well played everyone. Let's go ahead and take a look at all the stats here. So you can see my Forsaken did well, my Chaos Knights and Hounds did some serious work, but my Infantry Corps kind of got smashed a little bit. Dark Reno's Forsaken really MVPs. I mean, 212 kills, 110. And that Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, even though it didn't get a ton of kills, was doing really well in, like, you know, targeting armored infantry and also going after their lords. Chainsaw Gav with Sigvald, his forces were pretty strong. Our Cav together were able to kind of overwhelm the flank, and it went quite well. So the Goblin Crackhead, I like his build quite a bit. Those great swords perform well. I would say the Hammer of the Witches was obstructed for a lot of the battle, so that would have been one of my criticisms. And Bobby91, I like his army. Foot Squires, I would have liked to maybe see some, like 1 or 2 Foot Squires cut so he could get a little more troop density with some Battle Pilgrims mixing into the bit, because they're pretty good at dealing with Forsaken and Marauders. And in 3v3, you got to pretty much account for all variables. But for the most part, his army was awesome and he played very well. Kronos, definitely the most entertaining army of all. He did have the Outriders, who they did get taken out really quick. And that was one of the big issues with the matchup, is that we were able to really overpower Kronos over here on the flank with our combined Cav forces and the Sunmaker, and these guys, you know, the investment in these really made for a somewhat weak front line. But regardless, super awesome. His Balthazar Gelt was an absolute pimp. So guys, very, very well played. Hope you guys enjoyed this 3v3 game, and let me know if you guys would like to see some more team games on the channel. I'll definitely try and do it. Thanks again for watching, guys. Have an excellent night, and take care.